This is it, everyone. We're now officially in the Bachelorette endgame. Gabby and Rachel are headed to Fantasy Suites, and it won't be long before it's time to make their final picks. And of course, with the men tell-all came a brand new preview to sleuth out, where we'll be getting some more clarity on how things might go down, plus definitive proof on one man's elimination. So if you've been watching these breakdowns all season, you know the one rule. Please, no posting spoilers in the comment section below unless you can back it up with sleuthing, and a link to the full, uninterrupted preview is in the description.
Bienvenidos!
I am in love now. I just want to hold on to it for as long as I can. It means so much that you're here because you've always made me feel so safe.
Alright, so right off the bat, we're mostly getting repeat footage from previous previews, all in Mexico with Gabby. The one bit of new footage is here with Jason on a tennis date, which makes sense considering he's a tennis player. Now, they've really been holding back the Jason footage from these previews all season. Not entirely sure why. I suppose having this shot paired with the Paris one might give away he gets a second one-on-one, and thus likely makes it to at least a hometown, but that didn't stop them from showing extra footage with Tino, Erich, and Aven, so you tell me. But okay, let's keep this preview rolling.
You're rich. I fully expect to be getting down on one knee.
We had the best time. I feel like I fit in perfectly.
Welcome. I'm on cloud 9. I'm falling in love with you, and I'm ready for an engagement.
Okay, so now we're getting Rachel's fantasy suite footage, and at first glance, there doesn't seem to be anything groundbreaking with these shots, though I'm convinced that this date with Tino is different than this one from the Night 1 season preview, which would mean that Tino gets 2 dates and makes it to the finale. But upon closer inspection, there's something interesting to note with Aven and his fantasy suite. We have a day portion here and a night portion here, all of which seems to line up with fantasy suites. However, the outfit that Rachel is wearing here does not match up from the one in this shot. A moment we previously sleuthed out is her talking with Aven in a potential breakup scenario. Here's the clip.
After overnights, you changed your mind? You told me things, and then you went back against what you said.
Now ultimately though, all this proves is that this moment with Rachel does not happen during their fantasy suite, but it does give us a little more clarity on how things could play out. We've heard Aven last episode and in this preview declare that he's falling in love with Rachel. Now we have audio of him saying he's ready for an engagement. Maybe Rachel saying you told me things and then you went back against what you said has to do with him suddenly saying he's not ready. And I want to mention that the timeline here is something else that's not quite clear. If we have Rachel in 2 different nighttime outfits, one on this fantasy suite and 2 here with Aven in a breakup moment, and I say breakup because we have a lot, like tons of crying shots with Rachel from this moment, but if we have these 2 different night shots with Rachel and Aven, that either means Aven has cold feet after his fantasy suite and asked to see Rachel some night before the rose ceremony, or that Aven is actually making it to the final 2, and that's where this happens. Not to mention, we also have more Aven footage like this moment.
I'm just so conflicted now, I just don't understand. I feel so blindsided by you.
This was something they teased before, and we'll see again in this preview. However, we do have to note that we can't be certain that this is Rachel actually talking with Aven. Still, this is additional day footage with Aven on top of everything we've seen so far. It also doesn't help that this date footage with Zack is really all the date footage we have of him left, apart from that night portion of his fantasy suite. So in comparison, Aven has more footage than Zack. Though I suppose it's possible they could be holding back more Zack footage. And speaking of Zack, we're about to get more context to some of the Jesse Palmer Zack footage we've seen from the previews before, so let's continue on.
The last thing your dad said to me was, they don't like me. I'm scared to move forward.
After Fantasy Suite, everything took like a 180. I felt blindsided. That was the last thing I could have ever expected.
Alright, now this is interesting. We talked last week about this quote from Zack saying after Fantasy Suites everything took a 180, but now we're getting new context with him saying he felt blindsided. So all in all, for this moment with Zack and Jesse, from the previous previews we have Jesse saying things have obviously taken a turn and what do you want to do now? And then Zack saying that was the last thing he could have ever expected, he needs to tell her this full truth. With of course the new addition being he's also been blindsided. Now I don't know about you, but with all of this, I'm having a hard time thinking this is just some sort of misunderstanding that will get resolved. Plus, when does this happen? We know this happens sometime after his fantasy suite, but is there room for this to happen on a separate day right after fantasy suites, and then for the Aven stuff to also happen on a separate day after fantasy suites? Kind of adds to the speculation that perhaps Aven is the one making it to the final two. But I suppose there could be room for all of it if what viewers from my post-show livestream said is true, that they're going to be splitting fantasy suites into 2 episodes. Either way though, as far as I'm seeing it, it looks like a clear path for Tino making it into the finale. Moving on.
Now I'm like picturing the girl that like I'm in love with doing that with somebody else, like that crushes me.
He testing me. That's like not something you do to someone that you love.
And here's the first bit of Erich drama. Comes right in time after Erich has suddenly been propelled as a new favorite. So yes, unless this is very good audio splicing, it looks as though Gabby's comment here about that not being something you do to someone you love matches up, as her green dress is the same as in this moment with Erich. But does this mean Erich is doomed? Not so sure about that one. There's more footage of Gabby's endgame still to come, so I'll go over my thoughts once we have all of that info. For now, let's keep going.
Just take a minute, honey. This is all a lot. I've tried so hard to not be reckless with other people, and he was reckless with me.
So here we finally have a lone little bit of Johnny footage, which is most likely because he's the one getting the boot next. Now one thing I do know with 100% certainty is that Johnny is gone at some point. How do I know this? Well, we got a preview for Bachelor in Paradise at the Mentel-All, and well, just take a look.
You wanna go toe-to-toe with me? See what happens, bitch. Hey, whoa, whoa, whoa. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god.
Did you spot it? Let's do a little rewind, and right there, in the background, is Final 3 guy, Johnny. So it looks like he'll be leaving this beach and headed straight to the beaches of paradise. Moving on.
I just love her. I want the best for her.
I'm just so conflicted now. I just don't understand. You told me things, and then you went back against what you said.
Okay, so they're once again using this fake out, but now it's with Zack. And apart from knowing that this moment is actually with Aven, we can also tell this is a fake out because of Zack's shirt right here. It's the same one from his fantasy suite date. Otherwise, we get another look at this Rachel Aven moment we talked about earlier, and more of Grandpa John. Also note this woman right here and her outfit. This is Julie, Gabby's aunt who we met on her hometown date with Clayton last season. She's also the woman comforting Gabby in this moment from earlier. Now typically when the family is here, it means they're meeting the final two, but not always. We have seen seasons past where they come to meet only one person, but I suppose that means the good news is, there's at least one person and this won't be ending in disaster. Now so far we've seen the drama with Erich, but not with Jason. That's right ahead, so let's take a look.
I want to be fully honest and transparent.
He took advantage of everything. He never loved me.
Okay, here we're finally getting some Jason footage. Him saying he wants to be honest and transparent, then a clip that includes a soundbite of Gabby saying he took advantage of everything, he never loved me. But of course, we don't actually see her say this with Jason, so we can't know with 100% certainty that this is said in this moment. What we do know, however, is that at some point, Gabby needs to pull aside, I'm guessing a producer, and that she's upset. And her dress matches this same fantasy suite date. Now my guess is that Jason here is continuing what was already set up in Hometowns. He's being honest and transparent in telling her that he's not comfortable saying he's in love with her, or that he's not ready for an engagement. But will this moment unravel their relationship? So at this point at least, I find it hard to buy that Jason will be getting down on one knee. They do sometimes play the storyline of the lead's final pick debating whether or not they're ready to get engaged in order to raise the drama before they eventually do propose, but when they do that, there's often much more uncertainty in the air, and I'm not seeing that from Jason yet. He does seem certain, just more certain that he's not going to get engaged. So if Jason does end up becoming the final pick, the only way I see that happening is with the two of them leaving in a relationship, but not engaged. Ultimately, I think that is unlikely, and the pick is still Erich, which I'll talk more about in a bit, so let's continue.
Is it me? What about me is so hard to love? Now we're literally about to be engaged tomorrow.
So Rachel here seems to think they're both getting engaged. Again, at this time, for Gabby, I see that being with Erich, not with Jason, and for Rachel, it's with Tino. Otherwise, we get more footage of Gabby from this "he said he can't love me" moment that they've teased before.
He said he can't love me. It's like, am I too broken for anyone to love?
So what do we believe? That this moment with Erich, from Gabby's perspective, allegedly testing her leads to him saying he can't love her, especially after, in this preview, we've already heard him say the girl I'm like in love with is Gabby? Or that the man who said he's not ready to be engaged yet is the one who says he's not in love with Gabby. At this point, I think, with what we know, I have to say that guy is Jason, and that Erich is the final pick. Unless the producers get Roby to come in and hypnotize Jason, it would be quite the turnaround to go from where we are now to him saying he's in love with Gabby and is ready for marriage. But hey, sometimes it feels like they do have that power. Moving on.
To our dream guys.
Literally dreams. I just don't want him to feel pressure.
But it is what you want.
Okay, so a little more context for the end with Gabby right here. And hey, finally some final rose ceremony footage with Rachel. But it's Gabby saying I don't want him to feel pressure that's the interesting part for me. Makes me wonder if him, singular, means she only has one guy left. Something that I think is likely the case, considering we have this "he can't love me" moment, which is probably her and her final two guy breaking up. Maybe here, Rachel is excited because there are only two guys left, one for each, with Gabby not wanting him to feel pressure to propose just because he's the only guy left. We'll see. For now, let's finish off this preview.
You want someone who's going to commit to you for life.
Right.
And who is 100% sure.
Yeah. I feel like all my dreams are like coming true.
And there it ends, on an engagement ring and the final rose ceremonies for both ladies. Not much more to add to what has already been said though. Looks like both ladies have a man in the end, and with this being Rachel's final rose ceremony, that footage from last week where Jesse Palmer says,
Gabby will not be joining you. You're going to be the only Bachelorette here.
This is now looking more like it's going to be a final three rose ceremony situation, and not the ending. But however this all plays out, we're in for a dramatic ride in the last few episodes, folks, one that I think is going to end with Rachel and Tino, and Gabby with Erich. So that's it for this preview breakdown for Week 9 and Fantasy Suites. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and comment your thoughts and theories down below. And until next time, Bachelor Fantake out.
He was testing me. That's like not something you do to someone that you love.
Just take a minute, honey. This is all a lot.